Hello, everyone. Thank you again for joining Dorsey Ross on this episode of The Dorsey Ross Show. In this episode, Dorsey interviews another special guest that will give you hope and inspire you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you again for joining me on another episode of the Dorsey Ross Show. Today, we have a special guest with us. His name is Rick Ornelas. He is an author and positive change expert who teaches men and women to unlock their amazing potential to create an incredible future and change the world around them. He's the author of the best-selling book, 12 Hours of Heaven, Lessons for a Better World, and founder of Ice Park Change. This movement and community of those making the world a better place has grown by over 800% in recent months. Today, we welcome Rick to the show. Thank you for joining me.
Hi, Dorsey. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be on your show.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for coming along. Tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us your story.
Well, first and foremost, Dorsey, I really identify as a family man, as a father. So I have three daughters and my wife of 25 years, my wife Tanya. And growing up, I had 4 older sisters and my parents, a big family. And my parents always instilled the importance of, your family and your faith and loving one another. And so that's something that I've always worked on and continue to work on this day, is to support and to love my family and, do anything I can for them. And so that's a big foundation of what I do. But in terms of, just in the professional capacity, I'm, as you mentioned, I am an author. That's the first time author because I wrote my book last year when the pandemic hit and things were changing, and I found myself with a lot of time and wrote a book that had been in my head for 20 years. And I can explain, tell that story in a sec. But I have 2 businesses. I have Ice Park Change, and then also another business, Strategic Medical Coaching. And I guess the common underlying theme there is that I do all I can to coach and others and teach them how to grow and how to be the best versions of themselves. And that's what I work on every day.
Gotcha. Well, in your about section on your website there, it says you talk about the tragedies and the near-death experiences that you have gone through. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes, and thank you for asking. So, as I mentioned, when last year, when I decided when things were shut down and it was anxious time, and I decided that I needed to write the story that had been in my head for 20 years, that would become my book. Well, 20 years ago, when at the time my wife and I had two daughters at the time, my youngest hadn't been born yet, but we were driving on the freeway in Southern California where we lived at the time. And as we're going down the highway, it started to rain really hard, like torrential rain, really bad. And we contemplated pulling over because we saw a lot of cars that had pulled over and were waiting out the storm. But it was a Sunday evening. It was getting late. It was getting dark. My wife didn't want us to have to drive in the rain because it was just going to be worse. So we decided to continue on slowly and just make our way home. We were about 2 hours from home at that point. So we weren't close. So we needed to get there. And as we're driving along, I hit a large puddle of water and we started hydroplaning and we started spinning out of control from the slow lane across 4 lanes to the left. And I'm trying to correct and steer and nothing's really working. And then miraculously, we don't hit the center divider and we start spinning the other way. And we spin across the 4 lanes going the other direction. And then we go up a dirt embankment and hit a cinder block wall and we flip over completely and land back on the wheels of the car. And immediately I check if everyone's okay. And my 2 daughters had been in the back seat in their car seats and they were asleep when we started the accident. And they woke up and they were crying, but they didn't seem harmed. And my wife seemed fine. She said her shoulder hurt a little bit from the impact of hitting the wall, but the windshield was smashed, and the car was filled with glass, and the windows on the right side were all smashed, and they had broken, and the car was filled with dirt on the floor from when we hit the dirt embankment, I guess. And the roof was smushed down to about here. And all of us were fine. And we crawl out of my side of the car, and there's a elderly couple that had pulled over to help to see if we were okay. And they had called 911, and the lady put a blanket around my wife because it was still raining, and my wife was sitting there holding my daughters on the side of the freeway. And I'm talking to the gentleman, and he said, that I can't believe that you're alive. That's the most incredible thing I've ever seen in my life. I thought for sure you'd be dead, or at least severely harmed. And so, I thought about that, and I thought, well, wow, was it really that bad? And you look at the car, and the car looks terrible. And the next day, so we went in the ambulance, and we got checked out. Everything was fine, and my sister came to pick us up. But the next day I got a ride down to the where they had towed the car. It was a Pontiac Grand Prix where they had towed it to get our things, because we had been down for the weekend, so we had our stuff in the trunk. And I get there, and the car is sitting on a flatbed truck in the front, right outside the office. And I go into the office, and I tell the gentleman there, I say, hey, I'm here to pick up the things from my car. And he said, well, which car is it? And is it, one in the back? How long has it been here? I said, no, it's the one on the flatbed tow truck outside, the black Grand Prix. And he says, that's not your car. And I said, yeah, that's my car. That's my car. And he says, no, whoever was driving that car is dead, or, in the hospital. And, show him my ID and convince him that it's my vehicle. And he's like, wow, I can't believe it. Normally by the looks of the vehicle, I can tell what's happened to the individuals, because he sees so many of those vehicles, right? They come in every day. And so I really started thinking about it, thinking, well, wow, I was just kind of thinking, okay, well, we got lucky, but my mom kept saying, your guardian angel protected you, and others were telling me, it was a miracle. And one day I wrote about it. I wrote a what I called a to-do list for every day of things that I wanted to live by, treating others the way they should be treated, and being patient and kind, and living in the moment, and all these things I wanted to live by. And one day I'm reading that, because I kept it in my wallet to read it all the time, and I'm reading it, and my mom had given me a little guardian angel pin that I stuck on the visor of my car. And one day I'm looking up at that angel pin, and I just read my to-do list, and I'm kind of daydreaming, and I have this dream, vision, daydream of what would become my book, what would become my story in my book, about an angel that is sent down from heaven and helps people on earth. And it just hit me like a movie, so clear. And that's where I realized, I was like, there's probably a lot more to this accident than I'm giving credit. There's probably a lot more to us, living through it, and some more importance. And that's where later, 20 years later, I decided that, I need to share that story with others.
Right. Well, that's an amazing story that you got then. And like people said, it's, God was definitely with you, and it's a miracle that you did survive. And we all know that when we survive like that, especially people of faith, it's, it's all because we know that God has something greater in store for our lives.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's how I look at it, Dorsey. That's how, I didn't see that right away. It's not, I was young, it's 20 years ago. I'm young. I'm a young parent. I'm kind of trying to do the best I can with two young little girls. And I still had a lot of growing up to do at that age. I was still selfish and a young guy that's, wasn't putting my family first in every situation, like I do now. And so I think, God probably looked at me at that time and said, okay, here's the lesson. You can learn some lesson from this accident, but maybe not all of the ones. Right. And it took 20 years of me learning other things, other lessons for it to finally be ready to say, okay, now you can share this story, and now you can do some more work because of it. To help others.
Sometimes when we, hear about, book title or, movie title, and we, 12 Hours in Heaven or, something of that nature, we sometimes, at least in my mind, when I saw that, I thought maybe it was about, your experience, maybe where you had died or you had a dream about going to heaven. But that's not, the purpose or even the story of that book. Tell us about that story of that book and, what made you write that book.
Yes, yes, and others have shared the same thing as you have, that they think that may be the first thing. And while I didn't have that experience, what I did have is I did have dreams of what the world could become. And so as I was writing, and I'll tell you the story in a sec what the story is about, but as I was writing the story, and I started writing last year in April and I finished in July, as I was writing, I went through this period of incredible spiritual connection where I felt that the story was just being given to me and I was just typing. And I had all sorts of dreams and visions of what I was supposed to create, what I was supposed to do, what the future held for humanity. And last year, I felt as if times were getting pretty bad for a lot of people, not just myself, but for a lot of people across the globe, that, there was rioting, and there was the pandemic, and there was the George Floyd incident. There was all sorts of things that were happening. And it was just all these things happening at once that it was really challenging for a lot of people. And that's where I realized that, my story could give them some inspiration, some hope about where the world can go instead of where it is now. And so the story is about an angel. His name is Ezra, and he's sent down from heaven to earth, and he finds himself trapped in an elevator with 10 individuals that are all walks of life, completely different. And he's trapped in this elevator with them for a period of 12 hours, hence the name 12 Hours of Heaven. And as they're there for the 12 hours, he is able to help them each through the different challenges that they have in their life. And he teaches them different lessons. That's the lessons for a better world. He teaches them different lessons throughout their time together that become the foundation of how they are going to move forward with their life. So, for example, the first one he speaks to is a young single mother, and her name is Carly, and he teaches her to show gratitude, because she was someone that, probably similar to me when I was younger, wasn't very grateful for the things that I had, or for my family, or for the life that I had. And so he teaches her, the magic of having gratitude, showing gratitude in her lives for what she has, and being so happy about her little girl and her little daughter that she has there in the elevator with her little baby. And these lessons in the book, they're not things they're nothing new, right? They're things that people have heard before, like showing gratitude, or practicing stillness, or having faith, or the importance of learning how to love others. These are all things that most of us have heard before in life, but where I felt was unique is, as the story was given to me, as I shared it, like I said, I felt it just flowed through me. But where I felt it's unique is that it demonstrates them in a practical way that shows anyone really that these things can be a part of their life, and how to incorporate those into their lives. And that was my big hope for 12 Hours of Heaven, is that these lessons for a better world, if people start to implement these in their lives, even in one, and many people have told me, I've started doing, gratitude on a regular basis, or I've started to do this on a regular basis. Just one thing, if they pick one thing and they implement that, it will have a profound effect on their lives, and it will start leading to a bigger world, a better world. And that's my hope, in the whole goal of the book, is to start inspiring others to move in a better direction.
Right. And we definitely need a better world, and we definitely need, better people to be, positive and have a positive outlook on life and be encouraging to one another. You have a quote on your website, and it says, it only takes one person and one positive act to inspire others and spark change. Why do you think we don't see more of this in our world today?
That's an excellent question. And in my opinion, Dorsey, I think it comes down to people not feeling that they can make a difference. And that's what it was for me. It was feeling that, hey, I'm just one individual. What can I do that's going to impact the world? What can I do that's going to change lives in a country on the other side of the planet, right? What can I possibly do? And that's something that, it took me a long time to realize until, I started saying, okay, asking myself that exact question, right? What can I do? And as I wrote, and, even in the couple of years prior to my book and to last year, I started doing things just on a local basis, right? Like with my church, I said, okay, let's organize a mission trip so we can go on a mission trip and help, in another country. And, we're volunteering somewhere else and trying to do some work there. But what I quickly realized is that, while those things are great, they have a limited time frame, a limited endpoint. I mean, yes, we could go do a mission trip and that may have an effect that lasts for the rest of those people's lives, right? So it maybe not so limited for them, but maybe limited for us, right? Because we just go and we do it and then we're done. And then we come back a week later, 2 weeks later. And what I realized is that where we can have the biggest impact is just every day focusing on just helping others or doing one thing to brighten someone else's day. And it can be as little as a smile that you pass someone on the street, or calling a friend that you haven't spoken to, or sending a text to someone that may need it, or even, as I was looking outside my office, the trash people had come. Even putting your neighbor's trash can, bringing it up from the street, a neighbor's trash can, because you know that it's tough for them to do so. It doesn't matter. Anything. It doesn't matter. But what I think is important for people to realize is that no matter how small you are, no matter who you are, no matter where you live, no matter what you do, that any positive action does have that ripple effect that can affect others and that can continue to go on and on and on and on. And you may never realize how far it goes, right? But the only way to ensure that we do get to that better world is by at least taking that first step, at least saying, hey, I'm going to commit. It's just me, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it anyways. And whether anyone says thank you or whether they, nobody ever acknowledges, that doesn't matter,
Right.
Because it does have a ripple effect. And where it has the biggest ripple effect is inside yourself. Because just by doing that, you're the one that benefits the most and changes. And then by virtue of that, that leads to a better world for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes, with me, I travel around and I speak, and, I could be speaking to 20 people or, a couple hundred people at one point. And, like you're saying, we just don't know who we're going to impact at that time. Nobody could come up to us and say, hey, great job today. And, but yet they walk out and you impacted, one person, and they could do something great for for their community, or even for their world, for that time.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure, with your speaking, Dorsey, that there's been plenty of people that have been impacted, and your podcast and things. There's people that, like you said, you're never going to know. They may never tell you. They may never email you or send in a comment or anything like that. But it is having an impact. And I think an important kind of barometer or measuring stick is that if the person doing the work, like you, when you speak, if you feel, hey, I'm doing good work, it's important that I speak, it's important that I want to do this podcast, just by virtue of feeling that inside, that's proof that it's having an impact. That's proof that it's affecting others, by virtue of you feeling, hey, I'm doing something good, and this is what I feel called to do.
Absolutely. With all that you have been through in your life, what lessons have you learned along the way?
Well, I'd say a lot of the lessons that I share in 12 Hours of Heaven are some of the most important ones for me: to love, to give, to serve, to have faith, to be present, to show gratitude, to practice stillness, to expand your relationship with God. I mean, these are all things that are important to me. I'd say for those listening, if any of these resonate with you, then that's great. Everyone's going to have their own list of what they've learned over their lifetime. And I think the most important thing is just, taking the time to step back and reflect on what have you learned, right? And reflect on, what did this experience teach me? What did I get out of this experience? Whether it was the happiest experience in your life or the worst or the most traumatic experience in your life, but looking at it and saying, okay, what did it teach me? What did I learn? How is it going to affect me moving on? And, I choose to have things affect me in a positive way and, to look at them, however terrible they are, to look at them as an opportunity to learn and grow from them, whatever they are. And that's, it's been tough for me to get to there. It's taken a long time to get to that point in my life, but that's where I am now. And, I find great comfort in that. And so I'd urge others to do the same.
Right. How do you think people should stay positive?
Well, I think it's kind of doing some of the things that I just talked about, Dorsey. I think it's, there's this technique in psychology. It's called positive reframing. And positive reframing is about taking, any occurrence, any situation that you're in and pausing to reflect on it and then reframing it to look for what is positive in that experience. So as an example, the pandemic, right? COVID, that can be looked at as a terrible thing, right? There's been deaths. There's been people that have lost their jobs. There's been people that have, lost their homes and all sorts of things, tragedies that have come from the pandemic. Excuse me. But we can also look at it and say it's brought the world closer together. It's led to new technologies where people can, for example, let's say they can be treated by a doctor with telemedicine. There's changes in regulations. It's connected people from all across the world, like you and I are doing right now, over video, that we're able to connect. And I've connected with hundreds of people over the past year from all over the world, via Zoom calls and calls like this. And that would have never happened with myself and probably a lot of others had there not been a pandemic, right? And so we can look at that and say, all right, well, this is, here's this tragedy, if you will. What are the positives that can come from it? So that's the biggest thing I would say is for, looking for that silver lining, looking for, making lemonade out of lemons, whatever cliche you want to use, but looking for the positives in any situation. And then the second one would be if folks struggle, if let's say, because there's some people out there that are inherently more negative than positive, they kind of look through things with a colored lens that's more, and what I mean by that is that, more on the negative side, right? That they see things as darker, as opposed to more light or positive. And I'd say that the advice for them is to find something to be grateful for. Anytime you find yourself going on the path, towards negativity or looking for, just take one thing to be grateful for. That's something that's really helped me. It's helped a lot of folks that I coach in just to say, all right, work sucked today. Work was horrible. I got all this work given to me. I had that terrible day, whatever. Okay. I can at least be grateful that I have a job. There's plenty of others that don't have a job. I can at least be grateful that, it generated a paycheck that I can, pay my bills. There's always going to be some kind of positive, something to be grateful for. And those two tools, the positive reframing or the gratitude in the situation can help to get people on a positive path.
Absolutely. You also started iSpark Change. What is that all about?
So iSpark Change is about connecting and empowering those who spread positive change to lead to a greater social impact in the world. And what that means is that a few minutes ago, we were talking about how individuals, they feel they're too small. They feel like, oh, I'm just one person. What can I do? Or, how can I affect the world? And iSpark Change is a community. It's a movement. We have a Facebook group, and we have our online community of where people can just connect and say, hey, I want to join a community of others that are spreading positive change, others that want to make the world a better place. And that's really all it takes. It's nothing other than saying, hey, I want to have a better world. I want to have, some positive change in the world. And you commit to that. And then when you join iSpark Change, you'll see that there's daily inspiration and motivation. And there's we share content from others that are doing good work in the world. Like I'd love, we would share, your podcast on there and show, look how at the, great work that Dorsey is doing with his show. But it's also about showing individuals that they can have a greater social impact, so that, whether they're, it's a company or an organization that wants to know how to add social impact to their cause, we can help them with that. Or whether it's an individual that says, hey, I'd like to have more of an impact. I know it's important. I want the world to be a better place, but I just don't know where to start. Right. And so we can, connect them with others that are, if there's some work that they're interested in, that they can be a part of that, or, they can just, support through support, their support of, watching the videos or the content or things like that. They can simply support and say, hey, I support, a better world and some positive change in the world. But we're growing the community. As you said at the beginning, we're growing the community and movement. We have lots of goals. At the end of this month, we'll relaunch our website with a lot of awesome new content and things to provide for people that join. And then down the road, a few years down the road, we want to evolve it into a social media platform where we can truly connect all these individuals in a much easier fashion, where they can see, who's doing what across the world and support one another.
Yeah. And I think especially in social media today, we definitely need more positivity in social media. You go on Facebook and there's some positivity on there, but there's also negativity as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, we're on Facebook. It's the easiest place to facilitate a group right now. But to your point, there's a lot of negativity. There's a lot of, judgment and other things that aren't representative of who we are. And that's why we want to, evolve to our own social media community, where it's just all about the positive change, all about connecting others. It's not, there's none of the negativity. There's none of that stuff. It's just a place where people can connect and support one another.
And that's awesome. I hope you guys, do that and do well with that as well. And I'll definitely, join you guys and, what can, be there for you guys to support and encourage you guys in any way that I can.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dorsey. I appreciate that. Yeah. We'd love you to be part of iSpark Change.
As we get ready to end here, there are two questions that I got left. How can others spread positive things?
I'd say two things. One is, first, commit to doing at least one thing every day. Commit to doing one thing every day. And I gave some examples earlier. It can be smiling at a stranger. It can be, commenting. We're talking about social media right now. It can be commenting some words of support for someone that's having a challenging time that you see them online. It can be texting or calling someone you haven't spoken to a long time, bringing in the trash cans. It's just commit to one positive action per day, and then just start doing it. Just start making it a habit. And again, it doesn't have to be, anything. I suggest when people start doing this, they realize that it becomes a lot easier than they thought. And they realize that their day is filled with opportunities to do things. It could be holding the door open for someone that's leaving the store, and you pause and you hold the door open for them because they have their hands full with bags, or, you bring their cart back or whatever, right? You'll realize that at the silliest of times throughout your day, that you can start spreading some positivity and some change, and that you're just not aware of it. Once you start once you make the commitment to be aware of it, then you'll start seeing all these times all throughout your day, and your brain will start making you recognize them because you'll start tuning in, and your brain will start have you recognize them.
Right.
So just making that commitment, and then you'll start to do them.
Yeah. Now, where can people pick up your book and also connect with you with I Start Things? Well, excuse me, I Spot Things.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for asking that, Dorsey, because, I always want to share and spread as much as I can. But if they, the book is on Amazon, it's on Google Play, Kindle, it's everywhere. But if they go to Amazon and they just search 12 Hours of Heaven, or 12 Hours of Heaven Lessons for a Better World, it will pop up. It's Kindle and paperback version. And then as far as iSpark Change, if they go to isparkchange.com, that's just the letter I, sparkchange.com, then they'll see our website where they can join there. They can also go to iSpark Change on Facebook, and they can join the group there. Instagram, TikTok, we're iSpark Change on all social media. And if they want like that daily inspirational content, motivational content, things like that, our Instagram has all of that on a daily basis and multiple times per day on certain days. So any of those places. And yeah, I'd love to, if anyone joins and they reference, your show when they join, there's a little place for them to put comments when they join, or they can connect with me on social media. I personally respond to any messages on there. So, I'd love for anyone to say, oh yeah, I heard you on Dorsey Show, and we can chat a little more on those platforms.
Awesome. Now, before we go, is there any encouraging word that you would have for our listeners today, especially those that are negative, or those that, maybe may down this week, or may have started off with a bad week so far?
Yes. I would say the advice I would give them is to be grateful for one thing. Just pick one thing to be grateful for, because that'll immediately shift their focus. And then the second thing is to just realize that they are special. They play an important role in this world. They are unique. All of us are completely unique and completely special in this world. And we all play a part in it. And we're all here for a reason. And so just to utilize their gifts, to share those with others, whatever that looks like for them, to share those things with others, and they'll start reaping the benefits, inside their heart and inside their soul.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Rick, for joining me today. I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure, Dorsey. It's been awesome to chat with you. I love your questions, and thank you for having me on your show.
Absolutely. Well, guys, thank you again for joining me on another episode of the Dorsey Ross Show. And until next time, I hope you share, like, and are encouraged by this episode. Until next time, God bless. Bye-bye.
Thank you again for joining Dorsey Ross on this episode of The Dorsey Ross Show. Please like, share, and tell others about the show. Also, please check out the other podcast episodes. And if you would like, donate to this podcast and buy Dorsey a coffee. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.